The Caribbean is not gentle at 3 a.m. It is black glass, cold breath, and the kind of silence that makes men whisper, even when they're alone. On November 23, 2024, that silence was murdered by the roar of 294 Mercury Verado outboards screaming in perfect unison. 98 matte black speedboats carved a white wound across the sea, moving so fast the spray never had time to fall back. They were doing 57 knots sustained, 800 nautical miles from the nearest friendly port, and every one of them carried enough cocaine to poison a mid-size American city for a year. They called themselves La Corona del Mar, the crown of the sea. For 30 straight months, they had been the apex predator of the Western Caribbean. No other cartel had ever dared to move product this way. Not in sneaky semi-submersibles, not in hidden containers, but in open, overwhelming industrial-scale swarms that laughed at every cutter, helicopter, and frigate from Key West to Cartagena. Each boat was a 39 to 41-foot narco torpedo hand-laid in hidden jungle sheds. Carbon Kevlar hulls with radar cross-sections smaller than a jet ski. Triple 300-horsepower engines tuned for burst speed and low heat bloom. Fuel bladders that gave them 1,100 nautical miles of range, and holds packed with 70 to 95 vacuum-sealed bricks of 93 to 94% pure Colombian Blanco. No running lights, no AIS, no names, no flags. Just black paint, black dry suits, and encrypted 5-second voice bursts on forgotten maritime HF channels. They launched from 6 different mangrove throats along the desolate La Guajira Peninsula of Colombia, staggered over 45 minutes to fool coastal radars, then fanned into a 45-mile-wide rake formation. 150 miles offshore, they executed a perfect regroup into a giant flying wedge 3 miles wide and 8 miles long, pointed straight at North America like a thrown spear. Once past the Yucatan Channel, they would fracture into 17 separate arrows and vanish toward Texas, the Bahamas, the Florida Straits, and every dark beach in between. Every lunar dark period between $110 million and $160 million worth of cocaine simply ceased to exist on the water. The DEA's seizure statistics look like a horror movie. Production in Nariño, Cauca, and Putumayo stayed flat or rose, yet almost nothing was being caught at sea. 2,000 kilos here, 3,000 there, then nothing for weeks. The drug just disappeared. Veteran agents started calling it the Ghost 2 tons. Analysts in Miami and Bogota started drinking too much coffee and not sleeping. Then the ghost spoke. In February 2024, an NSA listening post in Sugar Grove, West Virginia, caught fragments of low-frequency traffic that perfectly matched massive wire movements through Panama, Curaçao, Aruba, and 3 Honduran casas de cambio. The same 4-word phrase kept surfacing: Corona saliendo esta noche. The crown is leaving tonight. When the FBI cross-referenced the chatter with thermal satellite passes, the picture made the briefer stop mid-sentence twice. 90 to 100 high-speed tracks every 28, 33 days, moving in synchronized formations no fishing fleet or migrant smuggler would ever use. The tracks always originated from the same 6 grid squares on La Guajira, always regrouped at the same 3 deep-water waypoints, and always vanished west of 80 degrees longitude. This was not smuggling. This was a private navy running circles around 2 hemispheres. The decision in Washington. The intelligence packet that reached the Oval Office in September 2024 was stamped Top Secret SI No Foreign and contained exactly one recommended course of action: treat La Corona del Mar as a hostile maritime force and authorize lethal military interception under Title 10 authorities. The president signed it the same day. Building the perfect trap. In a windowless skiff at Naval Station Mayport, Florida, 4 agencies built something that had never been attempted in the entire history of the drug war. A floating ambush designed to erase an entire narco armada in under 30 minutes. The players, FBI Miami Field Office, delivered a 180-page targeting folder with names, photographs, voice prints, family trees, and exact boat assignments for 17 high-value individuals, including the fleet admiral known only as El Marino, real name Hector Ivan Ramirez Cardenas, ex-Colombian Marine Corps captain. DEA Special Operations Division provided real-time financial triggers and human sources inside the boatyards. U.S. Navy 4th Fleet brought the steel. U.S. Coast Guard District 7 brought the jurisdiction and the fastest boats on the water. Centerpiece of the task force, USS William P. Lawrence, DDG-110, Flight 2A Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, running full MCON Alpha. Every single active emitter shut down for 72 straight hours, navigating only by inertial platform, celestial fixes, and passive infrared. To the outside world, she was a 509-foot hole in the ocean. Supporting cast: USS Savannah, LCS-28, Independence-class trimaran, stationed 48 nautical miles north as the unbreakable outer wall. 2 Sentinel-class fast-response cutters, USCGC Charles David Jr. and USCGC William Trump, each with 2 65-knot over-the-horizon interceptor boats. 12 DevGru Red Squadron operators from Virginia Beach, cross-trained in high-speed boarding, engine disablement, and Spanish-language interrogation. 2 MH-60R Seahawk helicopters from HSC-28 Dragon Whales, with HITRON snipers carrying Barrett M107 50 caliber anti-materiel rifles and MK-48 7.62 machine guns. 1 P-8A Poseidon from VP-16 War Eagles out of NAS Jacksonville, orbiting at 31,000 feet with the AN/APY-10 synthetic aperture radar that can see a cigarette boat through a tropical storm. The terrain they chose was criminal genius in reverse. 2 parallel, uncharted reef lines ran north-northwest to south-southeast, exactly 14.1 nautical miles apart, 182 nautical miles north of Punta Galenas, Colombia. Inside the gap, a permanent 3.8-knot cross-current created a natural steering trap. Any boat that tried to turn sharply at 50-plus knots risked broaching or colliding with the boat beside it. To conserve fuel on a 950-mile transit, the Corona fleet would have to charge straight through the gap in tight formation, throttles pinned, unable to maneuver, unable to scatter, unable to live. They called the rectangle of water between the reefs the kill box. They called the entire evolution Operation Black Current. For 24 days, the task force rehearsed in absolute secrecy. The Lawrence practiced drifting dark for 12 hours at a time, engines at idle, looking like a derelict on every radar screen in the hemisphere. The snipers shot engine blocks on high-speed drone targets until they could put a 50-cal Raufoss round through a spinning lower unit at 150 yards while hovering in a 20-knot crosswind. The SEALs fast-roped onto moving 40-foot boats in 12-foot seas until the entire sequence, rope drop to full control of the bridge, took 9 seconds flat. Then they waited. 23 November 2024, the night the ocean went to war. At 1947 on 22 November, the final go, no-go decision was made in Mayport. Weather: moon 3% illuminated, sea state 2, scattered clouds at 8,000 feet, perfect for both the traffickers and the hunters. At 0214 local on 23 November, the P-8A Poseidon, orbiting at 31,000 feet, saw the bloom. 98 discrete high-speed contacts in textbook Corona rake formation. 184 nautical miles south-southeast of the kill box, tracking 318 degrees at 54.5 knots. The radar operator's voice was calm, almost bored. Count 98 confirmed. Formation rake. Speed 54.5. It's Christmas. The alert flashed across encrypted circuits to every unit. No ship turned on a radar. No helicopter spooled up yet. The entire task force simply adjusted course and drifted into final firing positions like predators that had been hungry for weeks. On the Lawrence's bridge, only red lamps and the soft green glow of passive flare screens. The captain's order was one sentence, delivered in a whisper that carried to every corner of CIC. Weapons tight until the last hull crosses the line. We get one bite. 0407. The swarm enters the kill box. At 040711, the lead pair of speedboats crossed the invisible southern boundary, doing 57.3 knots, spray exploding in perfect white fans under infrared. The cross-current immediately punished the edges. Two boats that tried to drift left were yawed violently back into line. By 041148, every single one of the 98 boats was inside the 14-mile gap. Locked in formation, throttles wide open, racing straight into the jaws. At 0412, the Caribbean night detonated into the most one-sided naval engagement since the Marianas Turkey Shoot. Two MH-60Rs that had been idling on the Lawrence's deck at flight idle, launched vertically, transitioned to forward flight in 6 seconds, and dropped to 60 feet. Door gunners opened fire with 50 caliber Raufoss Mk211, armor-piercing explosive incendiary rounds that turn an outboard engine into flaming scrap metal in one hit. 21 boats lost all propulsion in the first minute. Some engines simply disintegrated. Others caught fire instantly from the volatile racing fuel the Cartel mixed with ether. On the surface, 4 Coast Guard 65-knot interceptors roared out from the shadows of the cutters at 68 knots, searchlights snapping on in perfect synchronization, turning night into blinding day. Any speedboat that tried to break formation was met by overlapping fields of precision fire from 3 directions at once. One boat took 5 50 cal hits in 1.8 seconds, cartwheeled at 52 knots, and disintegrated in a 120-foot fireball that lit the horizon orange for 10 full seconds. In the center of the dying swarm, the SEALs executed the phase they had lived for. 3 11-meter combat rubber raiding craft launched from the Lawrence's well deck at 52 knots, skipped across the wave tops, and closed on the command triangle, boats 46, 49, and 52, where El Marino and the 14 high-value targets rode with the purest product and all the navigation gear. At 041644, 3 fast ropes dropped simultaneously. 12 operators in black kit hit the decks like black thunder. Resistance was pathetic and brief. The Cartel gunmen had AKs, AR pistols, and machetes. Against night vision goggles, level 4 ceramic plates, suppressed M4A1s with surefire SOCOM suppressors, and men who trained 16 to 20 hours a day for exactly this moment, it was never a contest. Flashbangs turned cockpits into blinding white hell. Controlled pairs of 5.56 punched through engine covers, fuel lines, or kneecaps as required. El Marino, Hector Ramirez, stood at the helm of Boat 49, screaming orders into a satellite phone. A DevGru assaulter put 150 cal round through all 3 engine blocks from 31 meters away. The boat coasted to a stop, trailing burning fuel and cocaine smoke. Ramirez tried to draw a gold-plated Glock 19. A breacher shot the pistol out of his hand, then zip-tied him face down on his own bricks while the flames crept closer. He was still cursing when the SEALs dragged him across to the rib. By 0436, the formation had ceased to exist as a coherent force. The sea was a floating graveyard of drifting, burning, and dead-in-the-water speedboats. The only sounds were dying engines coughing their last, men screaming in Spanish and English, the rhythmic thump of helicopter rotors, and the hiss of cocaine bricks hitting the water as crews jettisoned cargo in panic. 0439, total annihilation. 27 minutes after the first shot, final butcher's bill, 43 boats completely disabled, engines destroyed, drifting helpless. 37 seized intact with full cargo holds, average 82 bricks per boat. 18 sunk, 14 by secondary fuel explosions, 4 by direct 50 cal fire into the fuel bladders. 6,822 pounds of cocaine recovered, later lab tested at 92.8% average purity. 17 high-value individuals in custody, including El Marino and the entire Maritime Directorate of La Corona del Mar. 98 encrypted satellite phones, 98 military-grade GPS units, 91 low-frequency HF radios, and 12 laptops seized. 0 U.S. casualties, not one. 0 boats escaped the kill box, not one. As the sun rose blood-red over a glassy calm sea, the Lawrence's flight deck looked like a floating junkyard from hell. Pallets of white bricks were stacked 20 high under armed guard. Captured traffickers sat shivering in zip ties and life jackets, while SEALs cleaned weapons, drank coffee from stainless steel mugs, and took selfies with the burning horizon behind them. The intelligence windfall broke records. Within 96 hours, the FBI used the seized devices to map every hidden boatyard from Venezuela to Honduras, every mid-ocean fuel drop, every corrupt port captain from Puerto Cortez to Veracruz. Raids began within 5 days. Over the next 6 weeks, the Maritime Division of La Corona del Mar was dismantled so thoroughly that by February 2025, the phrase "Corona saliendo" was never heard again on any frequency. The cartel did not just lose $108 million worth of cocaine that night. They lost their speed, their anonymity, their mythology, and their future. Epilogue. In the classified after-action review, the Joint Interagency Task Force South Commander closed with a single paragraph that is now required reading at the Naval War College, the FBI Academy, and every Coast Guard leadership course. No swarm, no matter how fast, how numerous, or how arrogant, can ever outrun a trap that was baited, rehearsed, and executed with American precision before it ever tasted salt water. On windless nights in the Western Caribbean, local fishermen still refuse to transit the reef corridor after dark. They speak in low voices of 98 black ghosts that race forever in perfect formation, searching for a way home that was sealed the moment they crossed an invisible line drawn in the sea by men who never miss. They call it La Corona que nunca llegó, the crown that never arrived.